Hi, Eric.
Hey, Orsayor, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Happy birthday again.
Thank you. It was yesterday. My sister's birthday is today, so I
Oh,
appreciate it too.
well,
So,
tell your sister happy birthday too. She can get
she
some.
will love it. She will love it.
She can get some of it too. So I gave you yours.
Thank you.
Yes, I gave you yours yesterday and today. So
Yeah, but like I told my husband, it's my birthday month. So,
exactly. There you go.
thank
Spoken
you
like a
so
true
much.
player.
A true Aries.
That's how you do it.
So I'm just looking at everybody coming through now.
Okay. All right. So I think
I'm
we're all just wanted Catherine to make sure I was all set up. So I think you're good. I will see you tomorrow.
Cool.
Uh, if for some reason if something bad I get knocked off, what do I do?
Well, you're
I don't know. I don't know if that's even possible.
you won't
Okay.
be, but if so, then you're just gonna go back onto Instagram and then you're gonna go to book referees. You're gonna click
Okay.
on the profile picture, which will still be glowing, and
Okay.
then there's a little request to join down here.
Okay.
And then
All right.
yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. I'll see you tomorrow. Cool. All right. So it's
so I'm
9 o'clock there.
yes,
Okay. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So.
So I'm gonna do a quick introduction because most people don't see me on screen because most of the time I'm behind the screen. But I just want to do a quick introduction that I am Orsayor Simmons, founder of Book Referees. And tonight, I feel like this has been a long time coming. Honestly, I feel like this has been a long time coming. I'm not gonna sing Sam Cooke, but I feel like it's been a long time coming. So tonight we are we have the pleasure of talking to the legend, actor, director, producer, and the author of the best selling series, the Martyr series. I like to call it the Laws series. But if you're not familiar with the books, we have the Laws of Depravity, the Laws of Wrath, the Laws of Annihilation, and the upcoming release, Laws of Solomon. So welcome, Mr. Eriq La Salle.
Thanks a lot. Great to be here.
I'm great. I'm gonna give you your clap since there's nobody here. Eric, oh no. Okay, there we go. We have it all set. But before we get into the books, I want to ask you, where are you right now, creatively and mentally as a story writer, as a storyteller? Sorry.
Um. Well, I mean, storytelling. You're kind of always in it. I think there's someone once said, when you're a writer, you're always writing because you're either thinking about writing or you're actually writing. So those are the two states of writing as far as creative. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm always creating. I just finished turning in my last tweaks and edit notes on Laws of Solomon. So the publisher has it all. I don't touch it anymore. So they're doing their thing for the final put together, and then tomorrow I go back to I had to interrupt. I was writing the next book, book five, which will be the end of the series, because the series is going to end in five. And so I go back to writing book five officially tomorrow. And then just, like I said, creatively, I just, it's just reading a new television show that I'm going to go meet and with, the producers and hopefully get it. It's actually a pretty cool show. So like I said, so creatively,
It's
it's
always
cool because like I can switch from reading a script to something about reading working on something with the book series. My old assistant is just wrote a short film, and so I literally just hit him today and said, okay, I just handed in the manuscript. I'm free. Send over. He just,
oh
he said,
wow.
so we read each other. So creatively, like I said, the day any given day can be two or three different. things, or it could be this, the same thing, but every day is what
Just
it
go,
is.
go, go, go. Okay.
But either way, it's creative. It's, every day is creative. Yeah.
What was how? Well, you kind of answered it right there, but how was the transition? Because we know you as a lot of characters, but mostly as an actor. And then you step behind the camera, even though you said you always want to be behind the camera for a minute, but we drag you back in the front of the camera. But how was it to transition from actor to writer, where you don't want anybody talking about anything but the book, even though they may slide in some stuff like Peter Ben or Soul Glow or whatever, but you want them to stay focused on the book. So how hard, or was that an easy transition?
Well, it's easy for me. I think I didn't have problems with it. I think other people challenges, I should say. I think sometimes people have challenges based on their own sense of limitations. So I think
Mm,
when you encounter someone who doesn't put the same limitations on themselves that you put on you, so I think a lot of times when people go, oh, he's an actor, and at the time, I was, obviously the height of acting was ER, and I left ER to pursue directing. So it's like, why would you do that? And so, I've been directing now for the last 25 years. And then eventually becoming a producer, um, and then becoming an author. And so every time you make these changes, it takes people time to sort of catch up and accept that. Because I think when I first started off as an actor, it took a while before people really saw me as a director.
mm,
And then they started going, "Oh wow, he's actually a pretty good director." It's different stages. It's oh, he's an actor, he's an actor. Oh, he's an actor trying to direct. Oh, he's an actor trying to direct. Oh, he's an actor that directs. And then oh, he's a director. Then oh, he's a really good director. So
yeah.
you go, and so the hardest thing by far has been the transition to being an author. By far,
Mm,
I've never being an author and pursuing being an author is truly the hardest thing I've ever done. Because you have, when I first got out of college,
mhm.
I started working right away as an actor. So I got that quote unquote validation
Yeah.
right away. But I think as an author, your journey, and everyone's journey is different, because someone could be an author that could write something tonight and be a huge hit tomorrow. Like, so but 99.99% of authors, it's a grind. And my grind is not necessarily any greater or more difficult than millions of others. You know what I mean? So you don't get on a soapbox and woe is me, because I fortunately, have a day job that I really love and am passionate about. But I've been on this grind since 2012, and everything from self-publishing, and all the rejections, and all the stuff. Again, I'm not the first to go through it. I won't be the last to go through it. Some people have gone through worse, some people have gone through less. It just is what it is, but this has definitely been the hardest, because I just feel like as an actor and even as a director, I've had much more immediate gratification. You get a job, that means someone trusts you to pay you, um, and you go, okay, cool. And then you get another job, and then you get
Yeah.
another job. And so that in itself becomes a level of validation. I think as an author, I guess, for several years, I was self-published. For 8 years, I was self-published. So, you know, how legit do you feel? And even when people are saying, "Oh, this is really, really good," there's still kind of like this whole stigma of,
Mm,
well, until one of the big publishing houses, you know, grants me that or blesses me with that, you feel a certain kind of way. So this has definitely been the most difficult. And now, you feel that momentum changing. But what's funny is still people, oh my God, I didn't know he was an author. I didn't know he was an author. So you're still playing catch up because again, people don't see you that way, and then there's also the thing where you have to. I think there's also saying where people have to hear things 5 times before it
Hmm.
sticks. So they might, oh, you hear, they forget, and they keep hearing it. And then all of a sudden they say, oh, I heard about his books. And then the next time it comes in a conversation or they hear about that, it moves it forward. So those are just some of the challenges and blessings. Quite honestly, you got to take them all together. Yeah.
I remember when you was self-publishing because someone reached out to me. Can't remember if it was Raquel or before, but I remember when you was self-publishing, they reached out and said, Eriq La Salle wrote a book. Would you like to read it? And I remember it was binded. So it was, you could tell it was self-published. So it was like I still have the original somewhere framed in my office. So, and I was like, he writing books? Okay. But first I heard your name. I was like, yes, without even having to hear what it was about. So when I'm telling you the first 4 pages, I was like, "Ooh, he not playing." When you started describing about the priest and
Right.
not to give away anything, but for the people who read it, you were like real detailed. And I thought, "Ooh." And it got to the point where when I'm reading it, no BS. When I'm reading, I was just kind of like looking around. You know, when you're reading something and you're engrossed and you kind of looking around like, oh, shoot. And then you start going out in the public, in the outside world, and looking at people different. So when sometimes I would see a priest or a reverend, who I know is a reverend, because not too many priests walking around in their clothes or whatever. But I would sometimes think like, I wonder what kind of secrets he up here keeping. Because it's all in your head after you're like stuck in a
Right.
book. So you're thinking like, Then you start looking at people different. But then, after a while, then I seen it come back and I'm like, oh my God, thank you, thank you. Because I wanted more people to read the story. Like, you just don't understand how deep it is and how true that people really are out there. You just never know.
Right.
But then I was struggling, and it's more me, because I was thinking, I understand why they wanted revenge and things like that. But then I started to question myself, like, ooh, what that say about me? Because some of the stuff that was happening, I'm like, yeah, get him, because all the stuff he did, he deserved it. But
Right.
then you start thinking, what that say about me? Is that really right? Or some people will say, well, let God judge him. It's when he died and passed away. Let God deal with it. But then some people say we don't know when God gonna get him. So in the meantime, let me take care of it.
Little hard. I think but the I think the point for me, something that was really really important is you have to realize that African Americans occupy such a small corner of publishing overall, and there are certain niches. There's ghetto lit, and there's black lit, etc. But pound for pound, it's still a small corner. It's a tiny corner when you start breaking it down to certain genres. The thriller genre is very, very small when it comes to African Americans. So what I wanted to do was instead of just sort of there's a formula to when you study art. There's a formula in science to things, and so one thing we know about thrillers in general, traditional thrillers, a bad guy does something, the good guy pursues, and then the good guy normally catches, and that's because that makes them heroic. If they don't catch the person, they're less heroic. And there are a few series that can get away with that because like this cool twist where the villain was. But if you take something like uh, Silence of the Lambs,
Mhm.
we were rooting for a cannibal at the end of the movie. We were all rooting. We were applauding when he said, "I'm having a friend over for dinner," and so I wanted to write books that really made you feel conflicted, where you don't. Well, first of all, using experience coming from the acting world, and having that background, we're taught don't judge your character
Mhm.
because everyone sees themselves as right. So you don't play a villain. You play someone who's been wronged, and because you've been wronged, you do bad things. But in your mind, the end justifies the means. So I think that, if I can make a reader have a dilemma about, wow, I'm who am I rooting for here? You know what I mean? Then I've done my job as presenting two credible sides of the
Mm.
same coin. And it's up to you to decide what side you lean on or lean towards. But those are the things that I go for. Excuse me. Oh,
No
excuse me.
problem.
So yeah, so I love that, and so I say that to say, when I came into the genre, I wanted to do something that help elevate the genre. I think every artist, well, let me take that back. Everyone has a right to define what's important to them as an artist. So I can't speak for all artists. The type of artist that I've always aspired to is that, to be someone who respects the craft and who, um, uh, treats the craft with dignity. And by doing those things, you naturally elevate the craft. So as an actor, it was important to study. It was important to get a really good education of the craft. And so, I was fortunate enough to be accepted into Juilliard and NYU. And so I'm really proud of the foundation.
Mm.
But that's respecting the craft. Like I'm figuring out what I want to do, how I want to do it. And I think that, when you have that, you have an opportunity to elevate things. And so it's no different for me as a writer. As a writer, as an author, I'm like, I want to elevate. I don't want to come in and just do the same old thing. I want to, and being African American, like I said, in this tiny corner, uh, you want to make some noise. You want your thrillers to be provocative, to be, the Solomon is a very emotional thriller. You're not used to having, like, people are crying while they're reading. So you don't those who don't normally go hand in hand.
No.
But you want to be the person that, I know, you want to be the author that, people are going, I know I'm supposed to be rooting for the good guys and I like them, but this bad guy is doing something that I agree with. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or I'm torn, or I can't dismiss them. And like you say, what does that say about me? Because ultimately, art, as I see it, again, art is there to make you question and think about what you assume the
Mm.
world, your neighbors, yourself, education, science, politics, whatever you make is, I think good art makes you question. I'm not saying that it converts you to something different. I'm not saying that it changes. I'm simply saying it should make you think, because I'm not interested in doing, there's enough of it. I'm not interested in doing disposable art. There are books
Mm.
that you read, and I've always been very clear about this. One of the first things when Raquel and I started working together, I told her, I said, it's really important for me to be taken seriously as an author. I'm not interested in some celebrity. That's, it's a weird word for me. Some celebrity author. I'm not interested. I want to be considered a good author. And I think a good author makes people think. I think a good author sticks. You don't just dismiss. How many times have you read a book, seen a movie, eaten, mediocre food, and you forget about it within an
Mhm.
hour?
Yep.
And then look, there's a whole billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry for all of those things. But for me, I've chosen, that's not what I want to do with my art. And my thing as an author, in general, if you say it takes a week to read a book, in general, let's give it 2 weeks. Just takes, if you're giving me 2 weeks of your time, 2 weeks of your life, I want to feel like I've given you something to hold on to. Not 2 weeks of your life, and you go, "What book did I just finish reading?" You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
wanted to stick with, so the biggest compliments and some of the things that make me feel really, really good as an author is when people are like, I can't get this thing out of my head. I'm thinking about this long after I put it down. Even like some reviews of, listen, his writing long after you put it down, you'll be thinking about it. That's what I go for, and that's what I'm that's what turns me on as an artist, and
Yeah.
is to have make that kind of impact. Yeah,
I think you accomplished it. Well, I know you accomplished it because the funniest thing, the video I downloaded this morning,
which I was
it
cracking
was
up. Yeah,
it was the funniest thing. My husband had said, because I told him I didn't want to do nothing for my birthday. And then he was like, "Well, get your bag because we're going to a hotel." And I was like, "Okay." And then, and I promise you, Eric, when I walked out of the oh my God, I can't talk, the elevator door, that scene clicked in my head and I started laughing to myself like, oh, I have to do a video. And I'm walking down this hall and I'm giggling. My husband's like, what's so funny? I said, nothing, nothing. And I'm trying to explain to him. I was like, dude, when I was reading one of Eric's book, I just knew that, and I don't want to spoil it, but I just knew somebody was going to get killed. And it's like everything was happening at the same time. And it was like, why did you open that door? That's not housekeeping. All this stuff is going through my head. And so when I woke up out my sleep and I was just like, here I am, my old butt 52 running down the hallway with my phone trying to capture that scene. And I'm pressing the elevator door and I went down the elevator. Then this guy was trying to get in there. I'm like, close the door. Like, no, you're going to mess up my video. Then I had to go back up, up the scene to capture this thing. I went back in the bed. I'm laughing, putting the video, and I'm like, only people who read the book would get it. But that's to show you how long ago, since I read Laws of Wrath, that I could remember certain things. Because most of the time, you would have to, I don't know, people prepare for interviews, how they do it. They may reread the whole series.
right.
But it's like everything kind of stuck with me already. So I knew going in, the only one that threw me off, well, before we even get to Laws of Solomon, I have to talk about this. This book here had me crying. I was not prepared for it. When we talked about, and I'll just give a little snippet so people could read it, but somebody was under the table. The person that was under the table, and his story when he grew up, and it was like tearing up because it's like, oh my God. But no matter what happened to him, he already had his mission. He already knew what he said under that table. I'm going to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
He's grown and he's still like, oh, y'all thought I forgot about that?
Right.
And then and then it's like how the past you have to revisit the past. Sometimes you think you push that past away and it has a way of like
Coming back.
the sins of the past come back and revisit. And it's like, oh. And then something that stuck with me was the 738 was a time of death and then time of born
Right.
when somebody was
Right.
born. I was like, oh, look at Eric. And it was like those times. So that stuck out with me. But this here, this cover with Laws of Annihilation, right here, and I love covers. Certain covers draw me in. But when this cover came out, I said, "Oh, this blue is about to hit the fan. It's about to hit the fan." So when I started reading it, I thought, "Oh." So from the first book to the second, it's like everything is just intensifying back. And so now we know the characters, we know certain people, and we like, okay. But what got me, if you didn't pay attention to the first book, that little person where you just mentioned it like a little drip, the African. And you like,
Right.
And then you don't see, he's just like a whisper. So you remember it back in the head, like, what the African, where? Okay. And then you hear it, now that little ripple gets louder and it's like, oh, the African. And then he just goes away with a little whisper again. So when I picked up when I received this, the Laws of Solomon, in my head, I had it already mapped out. Like Fee and Quincy, they about to go look for the African. They about to hunt him down and everything and everything. And then I'm reading, I'm like, oh, Solomon has his own
Exactly.
backstory. And I'm thinking from that little whisper, that little trinkle, little sprinkle you gave us, now Solomon. Was that the plan the whole time though? Why writing?
No, I think this is why I love Solomon so much, because in Laws of Depravity, in the first book, he's in one a half a piece of a chapter. They need guns. They go to him to try to, and so he's on one page basically, one or two pages, and that was it. Um, what I like to do is, you always want to take advantage of whatever you have that other people don't. Obviously, I come from a film and television background. So I like to be inspired by films. My life is, I love cinema. When I say cinema, I mean whether it's television, whether it's the movies. But I love cinema. I love stories. And so it's been such an influential part of who I am, and particularly who I am as a storyteller. And so I end up being influenced. So Solomon basically became my favorite movie in the world is The Godfather. And so the Godfather's henchman is Luca Brasi, and Luca Brasi sleeps with the Fishers. So everyone, knows that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I would like to one day, and I read The Godfather, and Luca Brasi in the book is worse than he is in the movie. Like they cut him down. Like he was. But I said, one day I'd like to create my own Luca Brasi, and then I thought, wow, it would be cool, like to have this African character be my Luca Brasi. So that's how he was formed that way. But he was just going to come and serve a little function. He's a bodyguard. Then in Laws of Wrath,
Mm-hmm.
when you start seeing who he is, and he gives in his one little monologue that he has when he's talking to Fee, and he says, "What do you know about me? Did you know that when I was a child, A, B, C, D, E, F, G happened?" And Fee, who's been around this guy all his life, realizes he doesn't know who he is. So I realize the audience doesn't know who this man is.
Nope.
And so the beautiful thing I was for so long I was just calling him the African.
Yeah.
And Raquel, my agent, and I, we had it because I wanted to name the book The African, and she was like, "No,
Yes.
you're not naming it The African." I was like, "But it's really cool, The African." She was like, "You're not calling it The African." And then the next day I was like, "How about this, The African?" She was like, "No." So, but he's a character that truly fought for his own book. He just started staying with me saying, I need my own story. And so when I wrote that passage in Wrath, I thought, this guy deserves some more exploration.
Yeah.
And then if you remember what happened to him at the end of Wrath,
Mm.
there's a mystery and there's some stuff, so it can, and so then he's not in Annihilation. And then I just thought, I'm going to give him his own book. But to me, he kind of demanded it. He just kept coming back, knocking on the door, going, "You need to write more about me. You need to write more about me." So to answer your question, no, it wasn't necessarily planned. It was organic growth, which I think is the best thing when a character and you just start falling in love with this character. And so after that one chapter talking about his childhood, I was like, and I love an origin story as well. So I was
Yeah.
like, and I wanted to do something different with this book. This book, stylistically, tonally, is slightly different than the other books. It still respects the franchise. It's still a part of the franchise. And we even have our characters that we've been following to come through, and there's an intersection. But um, but that was intentional. Like I wanted to explore a different type of thriller, and then it grew into this very emotional.
Very.
It's but it's just something different, and I love it. Yeah.
I love that you did go there because you did kind of like, we're used to one thing, you like pull the rug, like, nope, gotcha. But because how Annihilation end, you remember that conversation Quincy had with Macklin, and then it just ends, and you like, I, I know he said 3 books, but and then I seen later it was announced 2 books. So I'm like, that's what I'm talking
Right.
about because we got stuff to finish. And
Yes.
then with Laws of Solomon, it kind of like gave our characters a rest. So with us readers who followed was like waiting to after that conversation in the garden, we was like, okay, so XYZ, what we about to do? But then you kind of like, no, we gonna let that simmer.
Right.
And you brought Solomon, which took me on because when the first chapter, second chapter, I'm like, okay, is he gonna come in? But
Right.
it's going back and forth, from his past. And the more I got in his story, I forgot about Fee and Queen. They kind of took a backseat to my mind. So now I was in Solomon's story, like, oh my God.
Right.
So even though,
But then they make an appearance
yeah,
in it, and yeah, to keep, like I said, keep the franchise. But it really is Solomon's story. It really is the African story. But you just get to understand him, whether you agree with him or not. But you get to really understand how he was shaped, and he's just this interesting anti-hero, which I love. I love. I
because
love.
even with Solomon, we have, I want to say his name was Blue from the other book. To
Mhm.
me, we knew some of his story or whatever, whatever. But to me, he was more cutthroat. Like, I don't care, pop,
Right.
pop, pop. You're
Right.
gone.
Right.
But then you have people like Solomon, where you kind of have the same kind of thinking, like Solomon's coming in, bop bop, like a ghost. Whew, he taking care of business. You don't even see him coming, and then plop. You like, oh shit. But excuse me, but he's taking care of business, and then he's gone. He's not making a big noise, a fuss. He's doing what he need to do, then disappear. But this book made me think, oh my God, the stuff he dealt with as a child. Then you like, oh. Then some other stuff he's seen, you think you forget all about the stuff he done did before and all through how we know him because he's still there. He's still
Right.
there.
Right.
But I'm not to spoil it because I want people to read it. But this book took me one way, and then the next minute I'm like, oh my God, no, he didn't. Because the choices he had to make as a kid, it's like, and the guy said something about being a king,
Right.
and he that passage about being a king, and it's like because he was wearing that little crown. Like I said, not to spoil it, but he told him the passage about being a king, and right there as a kid, for him to make whatever decision he had to make, it's like
Right.
decisions like that just followed him out through his whole life.
Right. And that's
Oh,
we are ultimately the result of the choices we make.
mm,
And this the tragedy there, and again, not spoiling things, but the tragedy there is children don't ultimately control their choices the way adults do. And so Solomon had at that point, he was presented with two horrible, horrible choices.
mm.
So when you're presented with only two horrible, horrible choices, you don't really have a choice.
Yeah,
You're just picking what I mean, they were both equally horrible.
yeah,
And so that's what shaped him, and that's what shapes him, and that's what sets him on his journey. But he's never, I won't say he's never free of it, because he does have periods where he found some freedom from it. But it ultimately, it's there, and it's based on these choices, these two horrible,
yeah,
horrible choices. Either you do this or you do this, and they're both horrible choices. So but that's so again, that's what I think pulls people into understanding, and that's an advantage that I feel I have as an author coming from the world of acting, is because if I were playing this character, I've got to justify. Like if you look at Othello, Iago is
mm,
considered to be one of the best villains in literary history, and drama, of theater. And but Iago sees himself as being wronged, that there were choices that he was giving, and so it turns him into what the world sees as a villain. But Richard III, the same thing. Richard III had a
mm,
hump on his back, and he was teased, and he was mocked, and he was discredited, and he was dismissed, all of these things. And it created this guy who did some horrible, horrible
mm.
things. but from their point of view, they're justified and they're so it's our job as authors to be honest, to present the good, the bad, the ugly. I mean, like I said, he's an anti-hero, and I love him as much as I love any of my traditional heroes. And none of my heroes, all of my heroes have a little dirt on them. None of them are pure and clean. Solomon just happens to be, mired in mud. I mean, he doesn't have dirt on him. He's like deep in the mud.
Sorry. But you still see another side where you can relate to, and it's like, okay. And I don't know. I was not expecting. I really thought Laws of Solomon was just gonna be bang, 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 bang. Because what we was used to. But it just tapped into places where I knew was there. But you did such a great job, even when characters made the decisions they made. And I don't know if how you write, if you knew that would relate back to the reader. But even when he was faced with those two choices, he kind of answered it for himself. Like, if I do XYZ, it's still gonna be XYZ. So
Right,
boom,
right.
I gotta, for him to make that decision. And then it was other characters throughout the whole story where you thought, oh, okay. And then it was like, bloop, nope. And then it still made you think, would I risk my life for somebody I don't know? Or would I be like, y'all go take X, y'all go get him. I'm out of this. So they also just made you think like, man, what would I do if I was in that situation? Fiction or not, that could be realistic. What would I do in that situation? So with Laws of Solomon, it took me on an unexpected trip where I'm like, oh, I don't like crying, but even like I said, Laws of Wrath, you find yourself like, and I always tell my sister, stop doing that. I don't like crying. I'm a thug. And then we'll sit there and laugh. But with Laws of Solomon, throughout the book, where you thought, oh my God, how did he even continue to go on doing what he did? Some of us, I can't really speak because we don't know what we would do in situations. But I would think, would I be in a mental place by then or a mental hospital talking to the wall? But he still was going on with life and showing and we seen all aspects of him. The the Solomon we used to, the soft Solomon, the protective Solomon. So you did such a great job capturing it. But I'm not gonna. I'm gonna leave that there because I'll say
Well,
something. I have to
but
wait.
another thing that I'm really really proud of this one because in many ways, I mean, this Solomon is probably my favorite. I mean, it's hard to say. It's sort of like, do you love one child more than you love another? You know, um, but the thing about Solomon for me as a creative and the creator of the series is that it allows it allows me to expand on the genre. It allows me to expand on my readership, meaning that this is not a traditional thriller because it's so emotional. So you now start attracting even more literary readers, people that, you know what I mean? So some people, oh, I don't like thrillers. I don't, they're too, blah, blah, blah. Well, then you start reading this, and that's always like, to me, like, and this started happening even with Laws of Depravity, the first book, which was people would say, I don't normally like this genre, but because, if you remember, Laws of Depravity had this beautiful love story in the
Mm-hmm.
midst of it, you know what I mean? And so even that was, something different. But with Solomon, I think it's something that it allows this. It's a very lyrical journey because there's such brutality, and I think I wanted to counterbalance some of the brutality and some of the tragedy and some of the horrible things that happens. But the language is, as Raquel and I always say, is more elevated, and so. But
Yes.
that was intentional because I wanted you to have this connection to the language, to be really aware of language and the beauty of language, even in the midst of horrible things happening. So that's expanding and attracting people that's not um, traditionally attracted to thrillers, or people, and but at the same time, it's a true thriller. So people that are fans of thriller, but they're
Mhm.
getting something extra. So it works both
Yeah.
ways, and that's another reason why I have such affinity for this book, and it's why I'm so passionate about it, is because it allowed me to explore, and it started even more. I mean, all of them have it. I mean, like Laws of Wrath, the funeral scene in Laws of Wrath
Mhm.
was a very emotional scene at the very end. The thing, like you said, the little boy under the table at the beginning of the story, but and then Annihilation, a lot of emotional stuff that happened. But this book is it's just that's just more of the journey. It's just like really like a reader's journey, and I love that. I love guiding the reader through this journey with great imagery, because the other thing right now in all of the preliminary feedback and reviews are starting to come in, uh, they keep using the word cinematic. They keep saying, I can see it. And so
Yeah.
again, this is what I use. This is where I come from. I come from this world where I tell stories through images. And so now I'm writing in those images. I'm writing so that I want to take the time to describe a sunset so that you feel like you're watching that sunset, and
Yeah.
you're hearing and reading things in a way that you go, "Ooh, I never described a sunset like that, but that kind of nailed it." And so those are the things that I think are very important. But like I said, I love the difference of. I think it's very true to like yourself. You're a huge fan. You've been supportive for so many years. Um, but this stays true to the series that you first fell in love with. But
Yeah.
it's different. It's not
Mhm.
like what the hell, you know what I mean? It's different. And then like I said, we have one more book that's going to address a lot of things. You can take that to mean what you want it to mean. It's going to address a lot of things and that's how I'd like to wrap the series up. And I've already started the first book of a brand new series
Oh wow.
that I'm going to be coming out with. So that's why I think And the reason, listen, I mean, I think sometimes with these series, and I understand it. Sometimes it's economical. It's money. It's the publishers pushing you to do. I get it. I'm not no judgment on anyone, but I think a lot of good series they go on too long,
Yeah.
and so it becomes a cash cow. You're putting it out. So you've given up on you're just giving up on certain things. It's kind of, and it becomes, and again, I read these. So sometimes I read a series that have 20 books in one series. For me, right now, I'm like, I think I'm going to say all or close to all of everything I need to say about these characters. And at the very least, if I take a breather and if I don't know. Trust me, somebody comes along and says, "Yeah, there's $1 million." Okay, I'm writing the next one.
Yeah.
Forget what I told you. Next one. Let's keep it real, right?
Yep.
But I do, in all seriousness, I do appreciate the fact that I can continue to tell stories and feel like I'm being true to where we are right now. And right
Yeah.
now, I feel book five, like I said, because if you look at each book explores something from one of their point of views. So the first
Mhm.
book is Quincy's point of view. The second book is Fee's point of view. The third book is Macklin's point of view. The fourth book, it's Solomon's point of view. The
Yes.
fifth book, it's someone's point
No.
of view. But it's what I owe the readers and the fans that have been with this series and have, like you say, gotten to the end of the book going, oh, this is what's coming next, and then it's like psych, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
But it was a much needed site. Gotcha. Because Solomon, after, like I said, after reading it, even in the middle of it's like, man, he did us good. Because, like I said, a little whisper. And then that's what we needed. We
Right.
needed just a book about Solomon, not saying nothing about Fee or Macklin and things like that. But this was a much needed book for me because I thought, oh, and like you said, each book has everybody is goes the character, but nobody was expecting the African to just pop out and I go, man, is he my favorite? And then towards the end, I was like, okay. And then I'm still like, you know, so yeah, you did a
But you have
great
the funny
job
thing
with
though
it.
is if you ever go back and read Wrath now, you'll read it slightly different because of all the stuff you know now
About. That's
about
true.
him. So now you'll have a slightly different perspective of him, and you'll be like, oh man, you know. And so I mean, he's a franchise unto himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just I wanted to do him proud, and I think he's a fascinating character. He's such a I mean, you know, you fall in love with your characters, and you know,
Yeah, he was
villains,
deeper than
anti-heroes.
I just thought I would think of him one way. And it was just so multi-layered. But I want to read something to you real quick, what I took from each book, and then you let me know if
Sure.
you agree or disagree. But I put Laws of Depravity was what is the truth about human darkness? Wrath, what is the truth about anger and control? Annihilation is what is the truth about consequences? And Solomon is what is the truth about identity, humanity, and or understanding.
I think going backwards, I don't think one can mention Solomon. I don't think one can refer to Solomon without mentioning the word redemption. So I would add that because ultimately, because in redemption in traditional and non-traditional ways, this isn't just the typical I need redemption. This is his journey is about different types of redemption.
Redemption.
Uh, Depravity is very interesting. There's a thing is never judge a man by their virtues, but judge
Mm.
them by their depravities, because virtues can be faked, but depravities are real.
Ooh, I like
Because nobody's running around faking being depraved.
no, no,
No one's, but you can run it. You can encounter
not at
someone,
all.
and so if you think about the victims in depravity, they were faking their
Mhm.
virtues.
Yeah.
They
Oh, yeah.
were, they were faking. But when you think about Degler, he was not faking his
Mm,
depravity.
no.
And ironically, his depravity, in some ways, and this is a whole argument, his depravity challenged the virtues. And when I say challenge, I mean on the same level. His depravity was his virtue, if that makes sense.
Mm.
His so those are, so yeah, be careful. That's why and here's a little tiny little I love cookies. I love putting cookies in books. I love the when little treats for readers because every book has the word depravity in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
Every
noticed
book.
that.
Every book. Every
That.
book has depravity
I
in it because
noticed that.
that's such a central thing. Wrath, what did you say for wrath?
I put Ralph. What is the truth about anger and control?
Again, you can't I think you have to always include forgiveness
Mm.
and wrath. Because if you think about, because so much is it's like, and forgiveness can be, you know, a generic word, but if you think about Fee's journey
Mm.
in
Yeah.
it, and you think about what haunted him, you think about the things he didn't get to say, the things he didn't get to do, and so that actually sets him on a journey that he doesn't even know
Mm.
until I think towards the very end.
Yeah.
And then we see, and we get to see, because of that, we get to see him, do his thing. And what did you say about Annihilation?
Annihilation. What is the truth about consequences?
Annihilation for me, it's consequences from tribalism,
Mm.
because Annihilation was about tribes. You had the Jewish tribe, you had the white supremacist tribe,
Mm-hmm.
you had the tribe of the cops became their own tribe.
Yeah.
And so when a tribe is fighting for survival and fighting for supremacy and fighting for, what are the consequences, as you said, what are the
Mm-hmm.
consequences of, listen, white supremacy is at a point in this country right now where they see it as self-preservation.
Yeah.
And so now, how far are you willing to go for self-preservation? And consequences will come from that. And then you can have other people that might be disenfranchised, that they see protection. Well, what are the consequences of how far you're willing to go to protect your
Mm.
tribe?
Yeah.
So yeah. So those are, so that's how I
Let's
see it.
sum it up.
Yeah.
I do have, before we close up, I do have one question. It may, I don't know how to answer that. So hold on to your chair because it just may throw you off a little.
Oh.
Have you ever had like sleepless nights while you were writing book 5, and have you thought to yourself like, "Hey, I need a character named Orsayor Simmons in my book"? Have that like racked your?
Just a sleepless night and just wake up and just, um if I haven't, I have a feeling, I have a feeling it's coming. So we'll,
Okay, but the only exception, she can't die. She can run and
oh, now
hide
you know,
all this
okay.
stuff, but she can't die. She can't die. So we have
Be
to put
careful,
that
yeah,
on the record.
be careful what you ask of, because it's I just wrote, someone had, did me a solid earlier in my writing career, and I just wrote, and they're actually an author. So I actually named the character after them. They haven't seen it, they don't know anything about
Oh.
it, and the character doesn't fare too well. Let's just say that. So, because see, the thing in like television, for instance, is if you piss off a powerful producer, like you can sometimes tell when a character goes out super violently, they
Mhm.
pissed off somebody. Like I know a producer, an actor pissed them off. I think they fell out of a building, hit by a bus. The bus backed up over. I mean, they just, and it's, so they get an opportunity. So I say that, yeah, be careful what you ask, because once, I go where the story tells me. Okay, so if the story tells me, hey, it would be better if this person goes this way. So be careful what you ask
As
for.
long as I'm still breathing, and got my limbs, I'm all right. But I
I
did.
can't, I can't, I can't guarantee that because like when you talk about those sleepless nights, my sleepless nights are, how do you kill someone? How do you
Oh
kill
no!
them? What's the best way to kill them? Or so
Never
so
mind. I'll be a waitress. But I did see the nod to Raquel, though. I thought that was cool. One of the
no,
characters.
we've been ride or die for so long that it's been, again, it's easy to sort of jump on when the ball starts rolling down the hill. It's really who's with you pushing the ball up, pushing the
That's
rock
true.
up the hill. And so those are your true believers. Those are
Hmm.
your rider. That's your tribe. That's how I
Yeah.
select a tribe. It's because it's easy. Up top of the hill. Now let me get in this toboggan and slide down and have fun and pop some
Hmm.
champagne while I'm sliding. And everybody wants to be a part of that.
Yep.
But who's the person that helped you push that thing up? fell down a couple of times, got back up, strategized, moved the boulder over a little bit to try to find a different path, ran ahead, helped you clear a path. Who are those people? And that's what's important to me. And those are the people that I'm, loyal to. So, we've been, Raquel and I have been, we've been uh rolling since 2014.
Yeah, she's a godsend to even my journey in the blogging world. And like I said, after COVID, a lot of things changed because when I started, we were all written word in the blog world. And then after, I really want to say after COVID, that's when TikTok and Instagram Live, everybody wanted to be in contact with people. So, it took it. So the people who, like me, who's used to being in a blogging world, it was kind of hard for me to make that this transition to be. It's going to be a minute before you see me on TikTok doing all these little wiggly dance. That's not me. That's not me. But like I was telling my husband, I was telling him about the books and everything, and I showed him the original book that
Uh,
was sent to me, and I said, "Dude, he's not new to this. He true to this." And I said, "It's been a while since the story's been floating around, and I'm so happy." I will scroll through TikTok sometimes, and I genuinely like it. I wrote the book, but I would sit and scroll and watch people videos talk about your book, and I'm like, got another one, got another one,
yeah.
got another one, another. And for it to go to TikTok and you have younger people talking about laws of depravity, laws of wrath, to me, I feel like, oh, I'm a proud godmama. Just seeing the younger people take, because once they take hold of it in that TikTok world, it's like now everybody, it's going to be somebody else that pick up the book and go, oh, I want to know what she's reading about. I want to know
But
what
see, but
she's
that's
reading about.
see, here's the thing. You know, that's why I give so much love to you guys because you know, first of all, I've gotten a lot of love from sisters on TikTok, from Book Talk, and obviously the majority of my readers I think are female and mixed, white and sisters have just done the most. And when I say the most, I mean they've been the biggest, the most passionate, the most
Wow.
consistent, and so you guys have really, um, people like you, Danny, Kim, Storm. It's like you guys have like made it your mission
Yeah.
to say, hey, listen, this is writing that we believe in. This is a brother we believe in. He's representing the craft well, and you guys make it your mission, and that is invaluable. Raquel and I, and we talk about this periodically of how we had to start when you're self-published. It's grassroots. We didn't
Mhm.
have a publisher behind us. We didn't have all these things. Everything was grassroots. People would come over to my house and figure out what they could do to help get the word out how to do things. And I was new to social media, but it was grassroots. So when we finally got with a publisher, and now this publisher has blown up. I mean, it's just amazing. And so but one thing we said is let's never lose the grassroots. Those are the foot soldiers.
Mhm.
Those are the people that's out there. And so you guys, and I've been blessed because I have half a dozen, like, die hard,
Mhm.
we gonna, we gonna buy the books and we gonna give them away to you. We want you to come to the series. And so, however, I look and I see how creative you are with the things that you're doing, and I crack up laughing and rewriting things, but I'm like, that's an investment. So I will always fight to earn that type of respect and support. And I will always, you know what I mean? Because that's and now there's this beautiful groundswell. There's this thing
Mhm.
happening organically. And I look at and then somebody's commenting responding to you, commenting, someone's responding to Danny and Kim and there
Yeah.
and then like I mean you look on there, hey, I pre-ordered, and because I mean you guys understand the importance of pre-ordering and the power that helps, and so when you see that it converts into what we need most. It converts into you guys are actively out there spreading word. So I'm always going to be humbled by and just appreciative of the diehards, and you've been rocking with us for a long time. You know what I mean, for a very long time. But that type of loyalty and consistency and passion, and that's what all of you guys have. You guys have this passion about what you like, and and knowing that, hey, I'm gonna do my part, because we sometimes we talk about what we don't have. We don't have great representation in this genre. We don't have great. We are the really, like, not the ghetto writers, not the, like, I want something more elevated. I want this. I want that. We are, and then when it comes along, people don't. We don't always support it the way to make it get to the next level where it's
Yes.
sustainable. It's something that this is now. Cosby is there. S.A. Cosby, and I've been supporting this brother from day one. The minute I read
Mhm.
him, I was like, yep, and
Yeah.
they call for a blurb, and now this dude is there, but we need more.
Yeah.
And so, having people that's been in the game long enough to understand certain things, to understand, like I said, the importance of pre-ordering, of consistent, of spreading the word, of doing things. I trust me, I'm seeing it all, and I crack up so much, because I mean, your stuff is just hilarious. And I'm like, and then Raquel and I will talk about it. We're like, and back, and then and then like I said, I also see some of the emotional side, from
Yeah.
the others, and you know what I mean. And you're like, they get it. They get what I'm going for. You guys get what I'm going for, and that's all any artist really wants. They want it.
That's true.
They want it. They want it. They want it. But I have to hit you with, I have to keep elevating what I'm giving you. That's why I'm so proud of Solomon, because
Yes.
Solomon took it to the next level.
Hmm.
And so the other books, I'm like I said, they're like children. I'm proud of all of them. I love them all. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, just when you guys, and I didn't tell any of you what the book
No.
was. I wanted you to
No.
enjoy it or not enjoy it on your own terms, right? I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say it. I was tempted to, write a little to
Nope.
all of you and be like, hey, this is gonna be a little something different. I was like, nope, let them.
Nope.
And one by one, you guys started coming back on. This was different. Oh my God. But in the best way, and blah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
I read
and
a
and it's
blurb
sweet.
from Kimmy Reed's and that you posted on your page. And I said, she got it. She
Yep.
got it. She nailed it. She nailed it. And then Raquel said, I can't wait for the conversations. I'm like, I can't wait either, because we all gonna be there with our highlighters. And because I already pre-ordered a book, even though I have this, because I wrote all through this book, because I'm like, no, certain things, even through like Laws of Wrath. I could, if you go on my page, the video, I have like 5 copies on my shelf, because anytime somebody asks me about it, I'm like, here, because you're not borrowing mine. So I'm like, here. So every time they have anything on Amazon, if I post like it's a sale, I grab 3 more, because it's
Mm,
like, before anybody asks me, here you go. Here you
right.
go. So I
Right.
have people inboxing me like, can I read Solomon without reading other books?
Uh,
And I said, you can,
uh,
but you may. I said, it's going to be tidbits in there. And if you're nosy like me, you're going to want to go back to see, like, how did this journey start?
yeah.
So you're
And that's
going
what
to
we like
want
right
to.
now, like we're saying, like this is a good time for people to catch up. You know what I mean? People, some if you haven't read any, you read them. Do you have to read the books in order? No, they're all standalones. But there are advantages because there are these cookies
Yep.
in each, and especially you don't want to get to the end of, see, if you read Wrath before you read Depravity, well, Depravity ends on such a note that you're
Yes.
like, whoa. And so obviously, if you read book two, now that surprise, but so these little cookies that I love sprinkling. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
read them, and that's the cool thing is, and it makes the publisher very happy that you can literally pick up the book and read it as a standalone. You won't get everything that the person that's read the series gets because it's like you people that watch Star Wars or people Lord of the Rings or Star, they know little references that someone else might
Would
not. It
not.
doesn't mean that
Yep.
they can't enjoy it, but you guys know, you know certain things about Fee, about Quincy,
Mm-hmm.
and all the books and the progression. And so it's important, but again, you guys just out there telling people pre-order this, you got to get this, you got to, like, this is a good time now for them to go back and read so that by the time Solomon comes out,
You'll
it's
be prepared
you're
for it.
prepared, you're up to speed, you're invested, and then you get to kind of figure out which one hits you the way that it hits you, and then sometimes you're like, oh, I this used to be my favorite, I don't know now, or now I
Yeah,
got two
Solomon
favorites.
kind of not because Fee was mine because he was forgiven and a lot of stuff he regret and stuff where he wish he would have did this before this
Right,
happened. Where you go, oh man, because sometimes we all have it. But then
right.
when Solomon, after reading Solomon, I was like, I'm just gonna bring this up a little. And one thing before I end was something with the book of Solomon, the Laws of Solomon that had me thinking is when he was drinking tea in the garden
Mhm.
and then Gabby was always looking, just discovering new stuff.
Right.
And what I took just from that little tidbit of stuff, that sometimes this is me personally, sometimes I'm always just here, 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 here. And then I'm thinking about, oh, the job, this, I gotta do this. Oh, sometimes we don't sit still, enjoy our tea, and just discover new things because we're so busy, our brains everywhere. So I know with Laws of Solomon, even though whatever was going on every morning, whatever he sat out there and he looked around, Gabby was always in marvel by every little new stuff. And that made me think like, wow, sometimes we do have to sit and be quiet and just be appreciative of our surroundings.
And sometimes we
That's
have to,
another thing I feel.
and sometimes we have to see the world through the eyes of a child.
The most innocent one before the
Yeah, because if you think about it, if you drive home the same route, and I've experimented with this. You drive home the same way every day. If you're driving, the minute you become a passenger in your car, you'll
mm,
discover a house you've never seen that you never paid attention. It's just that change of perspective. Because when and your brain sees things and you know what you're going to see, and there have been times when I've taken an Uber home and I'm just because I'm not focusing on and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I never noticed that about that house. I never noticed that house. And so I think part of the lessons Solomon has a lot of I mean all the books, but Solomon has a lot of lessons,
yes.
and I think we are all really looking forward to getting into some real discussions about because there's,
Mhm.
there's a lot to unpack. Solomon, I'll just put it this way: Solomon operates on very different levels, and sometimes what you think you're reading, you're not, or you're reading
Mm,
that plus something else. And when I don't want to no spoilers, but Solomon's a lot to unpack, and Solomon was built to be a discussion because it raises there's so many things, and when I'm able to talk with people that have read it and tell them certain things, trust me, they're going to be like, oh, what, like
I
there's
can't.
some there's some nice hidden layered stuff in there that just seems simple at first until you go, oh my god, that changes
Raquel said,
changes.
"Don't spoil it. We
i'm
won't."
not, I'm not giving away, but
My
but
mouth is sealed. My lips are
yeah.
sealed.
So
But
yeah, so there's a lot to unpack. So I'm really excited about when we get to come back in September
yeah,
and people
I
have read
can't
it and
wait
yeah, ready to talk
for
about it.
all of us to have like a round table with our highlighters. Like, nope.
Yeah.
But no,
You're
I
good.
want to thank you for taking the time to
Oh, thank you.
discuss everything with me. And like I tell people on my Facebook and my outside social media life, if somebody could, if anybody could get me in front of the camera, it was Raquel. And it will be Eriq La Salle. So
Thank you.
it was no question asked when Raquel, said we're setting this up. I was like, well, I'll make sure I do it at a time where I'm free. I don't have to be rushing from work.
Right.
My vacation time, boom. And once they said yes, I said, hey, that's it. It's
No,
on.
perfect time. So no, thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I mean, I've said it many times, but I get to say it to you face to face. Just your support has been legendary, and you've set the bar, and you've got about 4 or 5 others that follow that same advocacy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really out there, just slaying it, and it help. And really, I really, the last thing I want to say is, it is making a difference. We are seeing a difference. Like I said, when you go on your page or Danny Kim's page, Storm's page, like we go to different. It is making a difference, and that's all you can ask for. So I just want face to face to say thank you to you and to everybody else that fight helps me to fight this fight. It really
Yeah,
means a
my
lot.
pleasure. We doing it.
We
So
go. There we
my
go.
pleasure. You have a good evening. Thank
All
you
right. Take
again.
care. Thanks, Rock. All right.
Okay.
Appreciate it. All right.
Bye.